You asked me earlier on about the selection process, and they select for potential. They don't select for the finished article. The actual process, the purpose of the selection process is to select people that show the potential. So we know you're not going to find the finished article. Nobody is. And so because there's just some incredible experiences that you need to learn, and you only learn by living those experiences.
What was the most difficult point in your military career to implement that? Was there a situation where you felt like you wanted to extract yourself, where you wanted to retreat to those comfortable situations, even though you had that automatic gearbox?
Yeah, Fergus, there's hundreds of those experiences, you know. So like I said, to be experienced is experiences times 1,000. There's no shortcut, right? You just can't get that shortcut. You can read about other people's experiences. It's not the same. So there's hundreds of experiences at different levels where I was having to up my game. Nobody joined the Royal Marines. Nobody joined Special Forces to try and shape that organisation and make it their own. You know, no one does that. You just get into those organizations desperate to be a part of it and to hang on to this freight train of momentum that is always progressing and striving for better. So you're really trying and working hard to be a part of that. There's a number of situations where I definitely fell short, and there's a number of situations where I had to be really self-reflective, one of the other self skills that I talk about with people, and go, right, you are far off your ideal self there. You are not living up to what you joined here to be. This pressure, you know, some of it would have been external. I remember this one incident. Okay, I'll tell the story. So the first time that I went to Afghanistan, you know, I was on the face of it very experienced. I'd spent 5 years in the Marines. I'd done a number of operational deployments. West Africa, spent a year of my life, the Troubles in Northern Ireland, you know, a number of experiences, very different, but a number of experiences. I joined Special Forces. Within months, I'd flown straight to Iraq and done a deployment out there. And again, ticking off these boxes of things that I'd always dreamt of doing, and life was good. And that theatre in itself, I'm not saying it was easy, but it was very different. And there was a lot of things within our control that we could control to make things more comfortable. But it was incredibly exhilarating and thrilling at the same time. I was really enjoying it. But then Afghanistan was kicking off, and friends of mine had deployed, and people started to get injured, and a couple of friends were killed, actually. And these were really top of their game professional people. And I was like, well, what's going on here? Friends of mine started coming back and telling the stories, and all the time building this negative narrative inside my head. I wasn't a team leader at the time. Pre-deployment training was happening. One of the team leaders injured himself seriously. Someone had to step up. I was selected. Now, you know, being more confident, and at the time I think I was saying, well, why have they chosen me? This is a good thing, opportunities. But I was a very junior team leader. Again, a massive dollop of imposter syndrome. There's that ideal self that I talk about. My own self-image was down here, but I was stretching to it as a great opportunity. But actually, there's a massive consequence if I get this wrong. There's lives on the line here. So I ended up deploying early with the advanced party, and a friend of mine had been shot and killed running off a guy called Mike Jones, shot and killed running off the back of the helicopter. Mike was a great friend of mine. One of the most professional, talented guys that I knew, was going places, but his life was over like that. And that was just before we got there. On landing, again, another colleague of mine had been shot and injured very seriously, ended up losing his leg. And the group that we joined to do this handover with were beat up, understandably. All this, and these were people I had massive respect for. They were all feeling like they were beat up. And we went out on this operation. And if I'm honest, I was absolutely crapping myself. Absolutely crapping myself. All the things I'm talking about now, I was still very early into my career, within the first few years, maybe 3 or 4 years as a team leader, which was, you know, not unheard of, but it was very early for me. A massive amount of imposter syndrome. And yeah, I was tested, and they put us at the front. And I was running off the back of the helicopter as we landed. We'd been briefed about where we were going. All these kind of narratives were going around my head on the helicopter on the way there. Things I didn't put into practice. I allowed myself to catastrophize. As I was running off the back, all I was thinking about was Mike Jones, who'd been shot and killed running off the back. That was the things. And so I was petrified, and I ran off the back. My performance was shocking. Nothing happened that negatively impacted the operation because I was surrounded by an incredibly competent team of professionals, and this is what we talk about teams. They rely on each other. And my performance that night, I didn't live up to my own standards, and I had to self-reflect. And I got a bit of ribbing off one of my close mates. He probably even to this day doesn't even realise the effect he had, but he kind of poked fun at me and joked about something I did. And it cut me so deep because I cared about these people and what they thought of me. And so I had to self-reflect, and I thought to myself, do you want to be this, call him Andy McNabb if you like, this person in this book that you wanted to be, or not? And I reflected on that, and I thought, no, I do. And so what are the things that I've got to do to improve my game here? And so more of this, tick, do more of that. More of that, tick, yeah, do more of that. And I genuinely wrote it down, and I got to work doing the things and implementing the things that the skills that I need to improve on. One of those was managing my stress. How nobody talks about this stuff, or didn't anyway. And nobody was talking about how they manage their stress on the back of the helicopter flying to a place where they know there's suicide bombers. They know when you run off the back, they're going to start opening up and shooting at you. Nobody spoke about what they're doing to cope with that stress. It seems incredible to me now, but at the time we weren't talking about this kind of thing. I had a light bulb moment later on in my career when a performance psychologist came in and we started talking about this stuff. Maybe we can move on to that. But I was having to resolve this myself. And these are the things that I found worked. These are the things through experiences that I found out didn't work. And what was important to me, that I was tracking this growth. And that's the reality. Facing up, you're accountable to these individuals. You're accountable to your team. You're accountable to this organization. Accountability is fantastic. Another thing that modern society tries to avoid. Accountability is fantastic for driving you to want to improve yourself. And that's what I did. And in a nutshell, I just kept working. And 13, 14 years later, I was probably more of a polished article. Still work to do, by the way. Still not far from perfect, far from it. But, very much a kind of more complete person, that I can be the authentic person talking to people about what it takes to walk this journey. Because you're not the finished article. You asked me earlier on about the selection process. And they select for potential. They don't select for the finished article. The actual process, the purpose of the selection process is to select people that show the potential. So we know you're not going to find the finished article. Nobody is. And so, because there's just some incredible experiences that you need to learn, and you only learn by living those experiences.